Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Horse's Mouth Live and the Extraordinary Advisor Show. My name is Ellen Rogan, and as always, we have great guests with amazing information to help you in every area of your life, especially your business. And today is no exception. We're going to talk about how to be at optimal peak performance and how you can use these strategies to not only grow your business, but actually help you in every area of your life feel better and perform better. And we have a very special guest. Debbie Vyskocil, who I'll give you the formal introduction in just a moment. Debbie's been on the show before and has such deep expertise and is a FOE, friend of Ellen. We've known each other for many, many years. We started our professional careers around the same time and met in a networking group and have stayed friends and business colleagues all this very long time. And I just love how Debbie's areas of really helping people with peak performance have grown and how her materials are so effective. So we all get to benefit from that today. So a little bit on Debbie's official background. Debbie Vyskocil is the president of Optimal Edge Performance, which is a data-driven performance consultancy where she leverages her expertise in neuroscience to coach clients to reach peak levels of achievement. Her background's really cool. She started with an electrical engineering background and a psychology degree, has had extensive neuroscience training, and combines the science with the emotional acumen to lead her work with some of the biggest, highest achievers in the country and in the world, and has trained with coaches who focus on the head games to help Olympians and World Cup champions and U.S. Special Forces really achieve the best. She's a TEDx speaker, has courses, done all sorts of cool stuff, written in things like Medium and the HuffPost and all sorts of great places. So Debbie, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Ellen. I'm so happy to be here again.
Yeah, so from your experience working with business leaders, what do you think is the biggest speed bump that keeps them from being at their top performance, doing really their best work?
Well, traditionally, it's been a busy brain that's been a problem. And after last year, I can say just undeniably that it's a busy brain. It's all the stuff that goes on, that chatter that just sort of never ends in your head and you can't slow it down. So it's really difficult to focus and it's really difficult to stay present because there's just a million things running through a business owner or any leader's head right now. Not only do they have what they were dealing with in 2019, but now you're looking at bringing back people and what about this and what if this happens, and there's just so much going on in their mind that it's hard to really focus and be incredibly productive and be high achieving when you feel like you're just running with squirrels all the time with so many things going on.
So, okay, so what do we do about that? It's like this, when you were saying that, I just had this vision of Pigpen from Snoopy with all the dust around him all the time. Mm-hmm. And that can be when our minds are just spinning. I know we'll hopefully have some time to talk about sleep, but I think sometimes for me that shows up at 2 a.m, which also seems worse in the middle of the night. But all day long, if I'm not really aware of it, I'm getting carried away in different directions. So what do we do?
Well, and that's the problem. Back a little over a year ago when COVID started, I was trying to figure out how we could help people with that because I see it in my office when I'm working with individual leaders. Part of the measurable coaching that I do is actually having my clients be able to watch their EEG of what's going on in their brain while we're doing the coaching. And that's how the coaching is driven. So when somebody has a busy brain, we see a lot of this hypervigilance going on. It's these super fast thoughts. It's if you were incredibly anxious or in incredible pain. It's that just that hypervigilance that's sort of out of control. And so finding things that will calm that is job one. Just finding the first little bit that works for somebody. When COVID happened and I knew it was happening to me, so it was obviously happening to a lot of people I knew that their minds were running like that. I actually created something called brain pause moments, and you may have seen them. They were on social media every single day for months and months, and now they're up there twice a week. But the whole point of them is that when you're in the middle of a crazy day and you're looking at all these things and you're trying to get your work done, that something would just catch your attention. It might be a video, or it could even be, I didn't have cat videos, but it could be one, or just a beautiful picture of your beach that you go to in your head. Just something that would make you stop just for a moment and exhale. And when I have someone hooked up in my office, we can actually see how all of that craziness that's going on in their mind just settles into this beautiful sine wave. And all of those racing thoughts calm down. So that was the whole point of the brain pause. And it's a little bit challenging sometimes to figure out what works best for you. So I put out a lot of different things. There's so many things out there that people use to quiet down their brain. But if you can just start with a moment, just to settle down, and then you can start multiplying those moments and trying to find just that key visual, that key experience. In meditation, they talk about just breathing. So exhaling sometimes can do it. Just long, slow exhalations. For other people, it is, like you and I were talking before the show started, that it could be imagining sitting at your favorite beach, outside your grandfather's cabin or something. A place that just settles everything down just for a moment. It doesn't matter what you concentrate on, as long as you let go of all that extraneous stuff that's getting in the way, all those extra thoughts.
Yeah, and it does have such a big impact. I hadn't ever thought about this till you just said that, but I have trinkets and stuff all around my office, and I have this one stone that is sitting right here when I'm either consulting with somebody or coaching them or doing shows like this. And when you said that, I just grabbed the stone and started touching it, and that brought me just a little bit more present because it gave me something tactile to hold on to. So that's really cool. So let's take this idea and not just like, how do we stop spinning, but our audience are always looking for ways to really find new opportunities and grow their business. And how do we use some of these tools to actually see more opportunities that might be out there for us?
Well, self-awareness and awareness of what's around us can be incredibly difficult. If there's so much stuff going on in your head, you never see it. I remember a couple of years ago walking down Michigan Avenue in Chicago, and I was just in awe of the beautiful tulips that were blooming and how gorgeous it was. And I looked around and I realized I was the only one on the street like enjoying the flowers. Everybody else was on their phone, or they were texting, or something was going on, or you could see they were just on a mission where they were going. And there were so many other things going on in their head. I could have fallen in front of them and they probably would have never seen me. So really settling down all of that and quieting that down really is instrumental in that awareness of other opportunities, other people, and that self-awareness for ourselves of what's going on. I think for so many people, they don't even realize, that you've been living like this so long, you don't even realize all of that is just churning all the time. So finding a way to quiet that down is key. And you can see the difference just in your focus. You write, Ellen, as well as anybody that when you sit down to write, you need to clear out everything. You need to be totally aware of exactly what you're working on and your mission and nothing else. And that can be incredibly hard. So finding one thing that you can concentrate on just to clear out all the extraneous stuff is key. I really encourage your listeners to try different things. It could be, a lot of people tell me if they have really tiny children, that maybe a picture of their child or thinking about what it feels like when your 2-year-old is sitting in your lap could be exactly what you need to let go of everything and to quiet that down. For some, it can be maybe some counting that they do. It could be a particular word that they resonate with and they keep repeating in their mind. And once you are able to focus in one place, then you can open that up to the possibilities again. and you don't have all those little things. I always laugh. To me, I always refer to them as squirrels. Not everybody wants to talk about the squirrels in their head, but that's kind of what I feel like, because they're just like poking. It feels like little thoughts poking in all the time. No matter what you're trying to do, something else is trying to steal your attention. And the more you can quiet that down, you can start to see what the possibilities are. The other big key to it, though, Ellen, is self-compassion. When we're looking around and we're looking at other opportunities, we tend to judge. We tend to judge our thoughts, our ideas, discount things that we see or ideas that we come up with, and really letting ourselves just run with it. Just think of every single crazy idea you have of what an opportunity could be. And I've found that sometimes the best way is to write it down, just free writing, and just let everything go and write down every bizarre way that you might be able to help your clients, that might help a challenge that your clients are having. You can edit it later, but when you edit initially while you're still thinking about it and you start judging what you're thinking about, you really cut yourself off to all those possibilities.
So I want to bring up, Deb, because when you were talking about this quieting the mind or even having self-compassion, I could imagine there's some people out there listening going, I'm too busy. This is too soft of a topic. I need to get down to the brass tacks. And for me to just spend time like writing or, rubbing on a stone or whatever, like, how's this really helping me? How's this really getting me ahead to my goals? And
Well, yeah, and you're right, Ellen. The majority of the people I work with, as you know, are very science based. I work with a lot of engineers and scientists and very analytic, data driven people. If I mention the word meditation in any of my talks, they would shut me down immediately. So being woo woo is not what any of this is about. It's really about how do we use the brain in the best way that we can. And if you're trying to focus, if you're trying to settle down, maybe performance anxiety, maybe you're speaking in front of a large group of peers and the knots are in your stomach, how do you quiet down all those thoughts in your head? So doing something, finding that one thing, you only need one, you can have more, but one good thing that can just make you settle down, just make you quiet down for just a minute, can help you focus and help you remember what you're saying to an audience. It can help you remember where you were in your writing, in your speaking. And so really that focus is critical. That's one of the most important things that we always talk about. And that's one of the biggest complaints I hear from everyone, is that focus is a challenge. And especially once you turn about 40, focus seems to go out the window. And I hear complaints from my audiences all the time that they can't focus. So being able to quiet your mind is the important part. The self-compassion comes in because just think about it on an innovative level. If you were always cutting yourself off when you came up with a really good idea and judging it and deciding, oh no, I don't want to fail, failure's bad, you wouldn't try anything. If you give yourself the approval to fail, to try things, and to stretch yourself, the world opens up and there's so many more opportunities for your business. How can you stand out from everybody else in the industry if you don't find those places that you can be more creative and give it a shot? There are no guarantees. It might not work, but to be able to give yourself that freedom that if you fail, it's all right. But let's try something new. Let's really give it everything we've got. It's key to business. It's the only way to stay alive in a business these days.
yeah, and that idea of, in addition to not cutting off your own creative thoughts, it's when a mistake is made, not spending so much of your energy beating yourself up that you made a mistake. So I was talking with an advisor's assistant last week who made a mistake. Like, it happens in business. And, when I think about how, when I had my practice, I got out of really difficult situations, sometimes that seemed unsolvable. I know it was my practice of quieting my mind, my meditation practice, that allowed it to get quiet enough for those creative solutions to show up. So,
Mm-hmm.
for people who think that either they don't know how to be compassionate with themselves because they're so used to spending their whole life thinking that's what motivates them is to be kind of hard on themselves or beat themselves up, how can you practice self-compassion versus just saying, I'm going to be more compassionate with myself?
Well, and let me give you just one study. You know me, I'm all about studies, but let me give you just one that hopefully will resonate with your audience. The Department of Veterans Affairs did research looking at those that were actively coming back from conflict in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they were measuring their ability to have self-compassion. What they found was that those that were more compassionate to themselves had a much lower incidence of PTSD. What they concluded from the study was that when you are compassionate to yourself, you feel like somebody has your back. There's always somebody in your corner. A lot of times when we're out there in business, we feel like we're doing it by ourselves. We're fighting the war alone. But if you think that you have somebody who always has your back, who's always supporting you, it can make all the difference in your business and what you do, how you feel, and how you just run your leadership skills. So it's incredibly important. More and more research is coming out about self-compassion and how important that is for us. Practicing self-compassion can look like a number of things per your question, Ellen. It can look like taking off a day on the 3-day weekend just to be with my kids, just to do something for myself, to read, to not do work, to do something. It can be giving yourself something like that. Just giving yourself a vacation, maybe, if that's something that you want to do. Just letting yourself have some reward for everything that you've done. But the other side of self-compassion is the ability to let yourself off the hook. If you do something wrong, how many of us did something back in high school that we still remember? Nobody else remembers, but we still remember what we did. We still remember a failure. We remember something that we did that we were embarrassed about. And it hangs on with us for 40, 50 years. And nobody else that was involved in that situation remembers it, but we keep bringing it up. I always talk about that phrase. It could be anything. When I speak in front of audiences, I've seen that, people come up to me afterwards and tell me they have a phrase. Maybe it's, I'm really ugly, or I'm so fat, or I'm not smart enough. And it came from a teacher, your little brother. It could have come from anywhere, but we still run that stuff in our heads. So really practicing to be aware of when those things happen and let them go is key, because otherwise you're going to keep running those same patterns. But when you notice that stuff's coming up, just let go of it. Just think about something else. Find another thought that you can replace it with. Maybe it's, okay, maybe my phrase is I'm so fat, and replace it with I'm incredibly strong. Replace it with something that is going to empower you versus beat you up every time that pops up in your head.
Good. Yeah. And I know one thing I learned when I was doing my training was also, if you could write a letter to yourself from that most loving, with your grandma or best friend, like how would they talk to you about this situation? So when I was talking with that assistant last week, that's what I had her do. Was she wrote a letter about the situation from this. She made an amalgam of people in her life that are really caring and encouraging. And it would be like, Dear Ellen, look, you're so awesome. Mistakes happen. You're going to make the best of this. It's all going to work out, or whatever that would be.
Mm-hmm.
And Deb, I know you know this, but there's also research that shows that self-compassion is actually more powerful in helping people be motivated and make changes than self-esteem. And we always think like, oh, if I just have greater self-esteem. So it's a really powerful tool that may sound like fluffy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so incredibly motivating.
That's
So
true. And that research actually was based on the whole concept of self-compassion versus self-esteem. And with self-esteem, we judge ourselves. We have to judge ourselves to have self-esteem. I'm good, I'm bad. But with self-compassion, that all goes out the window. I remember, Ellen, last time that we met, we were talking about some of the golfers that you have in your audience. And this probably will resonate with them. Think about what you say to yourself when you hit the ball. And sometimes it's kind of loud what I say to myself, if it goes in the woods or the water. But would you ever say that to anybody else that you care about? Even a foursome that you're playing with, if they aren't good friends, you would never make those kinds of critical comments that you make to yourself. And it goes throughout life. We hear it all the time from people that they're saying these things to themselves. And you wouldn't cut up your team that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important and so
Mm-hmm.
impactful. So, Debbie, with some of these tools that you have, how can advisors use this to communicate more effectively with their clients, to really get on the same page and with the people that they work with?
Well, for one thing, I've always thought, and I had the best wealth advisor ever most of my life. The two things that I always thought were the most important was trust, and tell me if I'm wrong, trust and knowing that you were being listened to. Those always felt like the two most important points that I would want in a wealth advisor. And that listening is where this all comes into. It builds trust, but it's really the listening. So and we've all been at dinners where you're sitting across from somebody and they're so busy thinking about their list for tomorrow, or the phone's going to ring or something, that they're not paying attention. So they're not listening and you're not really engaged in communicating with them. But when you can let go of all those other things and you can really bring that back to just listening, how can I help this person the most? And not judging yourself because maybe the last meeting didn't go well, or maybe you had some kind of a bump in your business, but really being engaged with the person that you're listening to is one of the most important parts of being in this business. And it's one of the critical outcomes of being self-compassionate and quieting your busy brain, is being able to listen. Then you can address what they're going through. But if you don't listen, you don't understand. I remember my wealth advisor drawing me pictures because she understood that I didn't know what she was talking about sometimes. And she would go as far as it took to make sure that I knew what she was talking about. That's key. That's instrumental when you're talking to clients.
Yeah. And that idea, that thought of not spending the time someone's talking to you thinking about what you're going to say next, which is what most people do.
Mm-hmm.
Or the story. Oh, I have to remember to share the story. So I'm thinking about my story to top your story in the middle of you talking. And just trusting that you'll know the right thing to say, and that no one's going to care if you pause before you say the next thing.
It's okay to think.
Yeah, right. They'll actually appreciate that. They might trust you even more if they know you're thinking about your response.
Exactly.
So with this busy brain, the busy brain that you talk about, and juggling so many things, and even if things are opening up now, people are still used to either whether they're working from home or working from home and the office, this hybrid model. How do we keep energy up? How would you recommend someone keeps their energy and their enthusiasm up to really be there for the people in their lives?
Well, one of the key things that you touched on in the beginning, Ellen, is sleep. You know me, I am a fanatic about sleep. Not just mine, but everybody else's. If you sat down next to me on a bus, I would probably ask you about your sleep. Sleep is so critical for us, and it's so underrated. There is so much research out there showing how we don't function well, we don't think well if we're not sleeping. The American Sleep Federation re-examined their numbers again just a couple of years ago, looking at thousands of studies and reevaluating how long we need to sleep. And again, they came up with 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night is what an adult should be getting. There are those unusual outliers, but the majority of people, if you went to bed, set no alarms, and got up when your body was rested, it would be between 7 and 9 hours. Now, how many people really get 7 to 9 hours sleep? Even during COVID, when people could sleep more, what I was hearing was that they were sleeping more restlessly. They were having vivid dreams that were waking them up. They weren't getting good quality sleep, but they were getting hours in. So you also need those good quality hours. We look at 4 different points of sleep, and it's what the National Sleep Foundation looks at. It's every sleep study that you go into. It's how long you slept, how long it took you to fall asleep. If it's over a half hour, you need to look at making some changes. Then if you wake up during the night, it's one thing if you wake up because you're on medication, you have to go to the bathroom, you're checking on your baby or something. But how fast do you get back to sleep? Is it within 10 minutes? And then how restored, how energized are you in the morning, which is exactly what you were asking. How do we stay energized? If you're sleeping really well, you're going to have a ton more energy during the day because you've been sleeping well and you don't feel like you need to have a nap in the middle of the day. So getting that sleep is really critical, and finding the best practices. And there's so many things that impact our sleep. But what people tell me, number one, and I've helped thousands of people with their sleep, number one reason that people don't sleep well is the chatter. It's what's going on in your head before you go to sleep. Once you even lay into bed and put your head on the pillow, it's all those thoughts, the things I didn't do today, what I need to do tomorrow. Everything starts to pop up. And as soon as you start to get a little quiet, more things pop up that you haven't had bandwidth for during the day. So it's quieting all of that so that you can get to sleep and developing some really good skills, some tools. It might have something to do with putting one of those sound machines next to your bed. So you always have waves crashing or a river running in your bedroom, or you have quiet music playing possibly. Something that will help distract you and let go of all those extra thoughts that you're taking in at night and going to sleep. The other thing that's really helpful is so old school. It's having a piece of paper or a pad of paper next to your bed and a pen. You don't necessarily want to turn on your phone because that blue light is going to wake you back up. But if you think of something that, I forgot to go to the dry cleaner today, and then you're going to keep running that through your head so you don't forget tomorrow morning to go to the dry cleaner, you could just write it down, let go of it, and tomorrow you'll go to the dry cleaner. So having that pad of paper and pen next to your bed can be really instrumental too to helping you get to sleep. As you know, there's a lot of steps to making sure that you have good sleep. It could range from your bed to, the exact time you're going to bed, to the sound of your dog who snores next to you. There can be a lot of variable factors, but the chatter is number one as to what is interrupting sleep. And if you don't sleep well, you're kind of cranky, you're not remembering things. I know when my dog got sick and I wasn't sleeping because I wanted to make sure that if she got up, I would hear her. And you just do that naturally. If you have children, you do that when you have little ones, that you're always kind of half awake where you could hear them get up. I noticed over probably 3 or 4 days, I really started to see such a difference. I couldn't remember people's names, couldn't remember exactly where I was supposed to be. Things started to fade off in my memory pretty quickly. I was having trouble making decisions. It was all because I wasn't sleeping and I wasn't getting that full sleep. And that's so critical for business, because how can you function at your best if you can't remember and if you're drifting off all the time? It's a really important component of it, along with quieting your brain, is really getting that sleep.
Okay, Deb, that I 100% agree. I'm a big sleep person. I don't always I value and I know how important it is. I don't always have that restful sleep. So whether it's sleep or some of the other things we talked about today, in the last couple minutes we have left, can you give us a couple takeaway tips, like some of your favorite, most easiest things that we can put into action right away?
Yes, definitely. So I mentioned that I work with a lot of very analytic people. And so quieting their brain, going to sleep, just the sitting in the forest watching the river is not a visualization they're able to pull off very well. But something with numbers can be critical. I personally, if something really fires me up and I get really stressed, I run prime numbers in my head. And for somebody who's not analytic, is somebody in a more of an art field, that would be incredibly stressful for them. But for those of us that really are into data and numbers, running prime numbers works for me. I have clients who will run squares is kind of easy because we learned that when we were in school. But maybe cubed numbers, take an x cubed and run through the numbers in your head at night. Or try even just doing odd numbers and then cubing them and running through those in your head. There's no way you can do any kind of complex numbers in your head and still be thinking about other things, because it takes all your bandwidth to do those numbers. So I would suggest that you try those and see if that works for you, because those numbers are just key. And try my prime numbers. I love those, and those work really, really well.
I'm just laughing because I am the person that would be stressful, even though I'm a CPA and was a financial advisor for many years. So I'll offer the step down that isn't the thing, which sometimes I just count backwards from, I picked 48. And then when I lose track, I start again. So for those of you that prime numbers or cubing numbers would be stressful, like you might want to try that too. So Debbie, this is so great. And I know you have so many great resources for people. Debbie has a course on sleep on her website that she's like offering now. And I know you have, is there a special offer? How should people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about whether it's working with you one-on-one, which they can do virtually, or in person if you're in the Chicago area? Or Debbie does tons of speaking. She's an amazing presenter. Or that, some of the other things that you have to offer. What would be a good way for them to do that?
Well, definitely you can follow me or reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook through the company. But the other thing is you can reach out to me through the website also. There's all this information there. But I do have a takeaway that is a checklist for self-compassion to drive productivity and to really setting those goals. We were having a glitch with the page this morning, so if you just give it until tomorrow to load, I'll make sure that it's up there and live. But just go to my website and then just add a /radio show, and there will be a document that you can download if you want from there. Otherwise, you can contact me directly, and I'm happy to send it to you.
Yeah. So for those of you listening and not watching, if you're in the car or driving or walking or something like that, Debbie's website is optimal-ep.com. Optimal-ep.com, which you can find her contact information. Her last name is a little tricky to spell, so that's probably the best way to find her and really take advantage of her resources. They're really, really great. And so, Debbie, thank you. Debbie Vyskocil. I know how to say her name. I have to double check, even though I've known her for years, how to spell her last name. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all this great information. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you, Ellen. I hope that your listeners will just be a little more conscious to be kind to themselves, knowing that it can make such a big difference in their business life and their personal life.
Beautiful. I love leaving on that. And for all of you out there, again, my name is Ellen Rogin. You can find out more about me at ellenrogin.com. That's ELLENROGIN.com. And if you go to ellenrogin.com/horse's mouth, you can download my free special report, which is what extraordinary advisors know that others don't. And there's been getting a lot of really good feedback on that, and hopefully it'll be helpful for you. And so the question to ponder today is, how nice are you going to be to yourself? How can you be even a little bit more compassionate? Remember, be great and create great every single day.